Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, as part of the pivot table series, we are going to be looking at another interesting concept, and that is of calculated fields. Okay, so what is a calculated field? A calculated field is a column that you create in your it's a temporary column, so to speak, right, that you create in your pivot table analysis, not in the raw report. Okay, in the pivot table analysis, where you want that calculation to be part of your pivot tables, and it must calculate according to the breakout of your dimensions. Okay, I know it's a lot of words, but it'll all make sense once we start doing it. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to be taking this supply chain data set that I have over here, which I got, I think, from Kaggle, right? So I have this data set, and now we are going to be doing some pivot table analysis over here. Okay, so I have created 4 pivot tables already on this, right? So and I've put them all within the same sheet. Okay, so if you don't know how to create pivot tables, if you don't know how I was able to bring them all in the same sheet, I would request you to please go back into the series from the first video and check them all out, so that this will all make sense to you. All right, so, and before we proceed, I would like for you to please subscribe to my channel, please interact with my videos, comment, let me know what you think of these videos and what other kind of content I should be making over here. All right, so now that we have 4 pivot tables over here, okay, let's just understand the data set a little bit. So this looks like it's a supply chain data set where we are taking products like skincare, cosmetics and all that. Okay, and we have details like the price, availability, revenue, the demographics, stock levels, carrier, shipping costs, and other columns as well, right? Okay, and based on that, I've created 4 pivot tables. So in one of them I have the category, right? I think this should be the category. Let's look at the field set and see what the real name is. Product type. Yes, product type is this we have product type with the number of products sold and sum of revenue generated. This one we have the carrier. Okay, which carrier is doing the transportation, right? And then we also have something called as lead times and shipping times. So if you see here in these 2 pivots, I focused on product sold and revenue generated, whereas in these 2 pivots here, I have focused on lead time and shipping time, as you can see over here. Okay, so yeah, I think this will help you see it clearly: lead time, shipping time, and here product sold and revenue generated. Okay, but it is broken out by different dimensions here. So here it is by SKUs. We'll probably change this. I've just kept this handy so that we can get going from the word go. All right, so now, this being a supply chain data set, right, and I do not have much experience analyzing supply chain data sets and or working with them for that matter. So what I did was I used our good old friend, that is ChatGPT. I put a sample of this data set and I asked it to give me some potential calculated fields we can do to do the analysis, right? So I'm just going to come here. So you can see this is what I typed in ChatGPT. I just pasted a sample. Okay, and then I asked it to I'm saying that I'm making a video and I want to make calculated fields. Okay, so I asked it for 2 things: that what would be the formulas, what is a calculated field, what would be the formulas, and give me the definitions of all the columns on this data set. Okay, because we need to know what the definitions of the columns are. Okay, so well, it's given me some formulas over here: average revenue. Okay, it's given me all the details with the formulas over here, right? And then it is also given me the column definitions, right? So stock keeping unit, number of products sold, product type, stock levels, lead times, okay, shipping times, shipping cost, the cost to ship the SKU. Okay, there's a lead time duplicate here, so it's saying that it could be a repeat or a different type of a lead time, right? Manufacturing lead time, and so on and so forth. So we have all the definitions here as well. So as you can see, it's very easy today. If you just paste the name of the columns of your data set in ChatGPT, it'll give you a close definition of what they could be, or in some cases the accurate description as well. All right, so looks like we have everything we need. Have the definitions, we have the formulas, we have some metrics and suggestions. So after all I did some more conversation and everything, and ultimately we are settling with 3 of them. Okay, so it's telling me how to do it, but we know how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up these 3 calculated fields. Okay, so we'll see how to do these three. Now this is something that ChatGPT by default selected this, but if you actually analyze it, one metric is to check the average revenue per unit, one metric is to check the stock turnover, and one metric is to check the total fulfillment time. Okay, so it's covering three different aspects of supply chain where we are analyzing the average revenue per unit. Okay, that is the revenue made with the supply chain, right, based on the products sold. What is the stock turnover, right, like what are the stock levels that we have versus what's the stock level that's moving. Okay, and then the total fulfillment time, what is the time we are taking to get the stock and to ship it, right? So that also matters a lot, right? From the source to destination, what is the time that we are taking? Okay, so these are going to be the three calculated fields that we are going to be taking. I'll just make some space and add these so that we have it handy for our reference. All right, I think we have it over here. So let me just increase the size. Yeah, all right. Okay, so now that we have what we need, so we have three formulas. Okay, and now if you see here, we do not have these columns: average revenue per unit, stock turnover, and total fulfillment time. Okay, but now you could ask, okay, why don't we add this in the data set? Why can't we add a column and say that average revenue or whatever? Okay, so two reasons. One is, when you calculate something like average revenue per unit or total fulfillment time or even stock turnover for that matter, when you add those formulas here, you are calculating it for every single row over here, right? For every single row. So if you're saying lead time plus shipping time, so if you put the formula, you're going to get 7 plus 4 11, 30 plus 2 32, 10 plus 2 12, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is for every individual row. Okay, but when you bring it to a pivot table, if you bring it to a pivot table and you drop it as a column, it will sum up the entire column based on the definition. Okay, so it's not going to give you the accurate one. Whereas in a calculated field, the objective is, let's say I take average revenue per unit, so revenue generated by number of products sold. I want this to calculate as per the dimensions over here. So for example, if I say number of products sold by, revenue generated by number of products sold, let's just can we position this here so that we are, yeah, I think this is better. Okay, so I basically want the calculated field inside the pivot table to calculate this divided by this, right? So I'm just going to type it as H8 divided by I8. Okay, so this is what I want. Now this calculation, I want the same calculation to come here. Okay, but the answer will not be the same. Why? Because the numbers are different, right? As per the dimension of product category, you have revenue as about $161,000 or rupees. I'm not sure what exactly this is, but yeah, so it's going to be this value by this value. Whereas here, if you see, the values are different. So if the values are different, then the answer also should be different, correct? Because you are looking at the calculation from a different context. Here we're looking at it from the context of product category, whereas here we're looking at it from the context of the carrier. Those are the carriers that take the goods from your entity, from your storage to the destinations, right? So if I bring this over here, let me just copy this formula here. Does it calculate? Yeah, so you can see that the numbers have changed now, right? It's 9.45, 12, 18, whereas here it was 13, 12, and so on, right? So the idea of the calculated field is that if I change this to this, it should calculate in the same manner, right? I do not want to put formulas over here. Okay, there's nothing wrong in putting formulas over here, but what will happen if I add an extra field over here? Okay, let's say in this pivot table, I add an extra field. Let's say order quantities, and you see what happens. It is going to overlap the data, right? It's going to overlap this. If I press yes, see, the calculated field is gone. The pivot table column replaces this. Okay, so when that happens, then whatever formulas you would have written here to do your calculations goes away, right? So that's the second reason why we are doing this inside the pivot table. So one is because it will calculate as per how you slice your data, and the other thing is that it is integrated inside your pivot table, so you do not have to put a separate column on the side, clash it with other pivot tables around, or get it replaced with something else just because some stakeholder or somebody is playing with the pivot tables to dig deeper, and then they realize, oh, they have overwritten the formulas, right? It's a mess after that. Okay, so now let's add this inside the pivot table and we'll see how this works out. Okay, I'm just going to increase some more columns here so that we get some space. All right, so now how do we add this? So let's add the first calculated field, that is average revenue per unit. So revenue generated by number of products sold. So I'm just going to come to pivot table analyze. I'm going to come to fields, items and set, and you can see the calculated field and you get a box like this, right? So you can see here all the fields that are there inside the raw data. Okay, now I'm going to name this field as average revenue per unit. Okay, now I'm going to add the formula. So you can add the formula by typing it, or it's much more easier to just add it from here, right? So you can say revenue generated. All right, where is revenue generated? That's here, insert field divided by number of products sold. Insert field. Now I have added this. I clicked add, and now you can see there's an average revenue per unit added to this list. All right, now I'll press OK, and you can see now that this has populated over here, right? Whatever we calculated earlier is now populating over here. Okay, so so this way we have this integrated. Okay, and now let's see the advantage of this. Okay, just going to insert another column. Yeah, so if I now change the dimension, okay, let's take a smaller dimension. SK, what else do we have? Customer demographics. Okay, let's try that. I'm just going to remove this and I'm going to put this. Okay, now you see this. I just removed the dimension. So now it's going to show you total revenue generated, total products sold. And you can see that it is showing the total average revenue per unit as per the totals. I don't have a dimension over here, right? So if I do G8 by H8, you're getting the same number. Okay, so the calculated field has modified and calculated according to the numbers populating over here. And now when I add another dimension, let's say customer demographics, you see your values have changed and your calculated value is also changing as per the breakout of the dimension. So if you add another dimension, let's say let's go back to product type itself. Okay, now there is an issue because it's going to overlap this. So I'm just going to insert more and more and more. Okay, so let's come and add the product type, and now you can see we have more breakouts, correct? So we have this breakout of the product type as well as the demography, and you can see we have an average per unit calculated for every aspect over here, right? If you add another dimension here, it's going to calculate for that as well, right? So this calculated field is working according to your according to the way you're slicing the data. So I do not have to add a separate formula. It is part of this table. Okay, now similarly I can do that for this table as well, right? I have this table here. Now the calculated field is part of this. So if I come to the field list, you can see average revenue per unit is there. So if I bring it here, it's going to give me the result. All right, now it may look like this may seem confusing. It says sum of average revenue per unit, but that's just a default way of how Excel names this. Okay, but you have to understand that this is calculating as per this one. If you have doubts, you can definitely select the fields and do a manual calculation beside it to check if your numbers are populating correctly as per what you need. All right, so that is adding another calculated field over here. Okay, so the similar thing, there's another pivot table over here, but let's just focus on these for now. Okay, so this is how you can add a calculated field right over here. Okay, now let us look at something different, right? So we have lead time and shipping time. Okay, so we will add this metric. So I'm going to just add this metric. So we'll do two, this one and this one. Okay, so I'm going to add this metric over here, lead time and shipping time. So we have the SKUs, and we also have the carriers based on this. Okay, so I'm just going to come to the same thing, field table, calculated field, and I'm going to say Sorry, I forgot the name. What is the name of that? Stock turnover. Okay. No, total fulfillment time. I'm sorry. Okay, so we are going to come here, say total fulfillment time. Okay, so the same way, I'm just going to edit the formula and say lead time plus shipping time. Okay, so I press add. Okay, and you can see the total fulfillment time is over here. Okay, and now you can see that it is calculating as per this one, right? So 7 plus 4 11, 30 plus 2 32, 13 plus 2 15, and so on and so forth, right? So you have this calculated field added over here, and in the same way, if you come here and take another this one, let's say availability, what do I get? Oh, availability seems like a number, I guess, so I'm not going to go there. We don't have a lot of shipping carrier. Supplier name, so it give me 5 supplier names. All right, so we have this, right? So I mean, I don't know, this is the sum of total lead time and shipping time for all of them, so I'm not sure if this is the right way to look at it, but you can see that the objective is to show you how this gets calculated as per the dimension that you are adding onto the pivot table. Okay, maybe location is a good idea. There you go. So it's Indian location, so that we know it's an Indian data set. So yeah, so you can see the number of days if it is coming from each of these centers, right? If it's coming from each of these sources. All right, but similarly you can add this into this table, carrier ABC, so sum of lead time, sum of shipping time. So I can add that over here. You can come here and you can find the new calculated field here, and you can get this value over here. All right, so as you can see how the calculated field is able to calculate the values based on how you are slicing the data. All right, now the last thing that I want to cover in this is how to edit or remove your calculated fields. Okay, so if you come back to field set and come back to this one, you can see that let's say you want to edit one of these, right? Let's say you've written the wrong formula, it's not calculating as per how you wanted to calculate that or something like that, right? So you can go to calculated field, go to fields, items, and this one, fields, items and sets, calculated field, and then you can come here. So either you can come here and select it, or you can also select it over here. So if you put this drop down, it's going to give you the list of all the calculated fields that you have created in this particular worksheet or this pivot table setup, right? So let's say let's say average per unit is not correct. Okay, so I can select that here, and then I can change whatever changes I want to make. Okay, maybe you want to add something, or maybe this numerators should come here, or this should go there, and stuff like that. So when you do that, you can click that and you can just click modify, and it will make the correction. Okay, so you know all your calculated fields are not set in stone, so to speak, right? If you've entered the wrong formula while creating it, you can always come here and edit it. Okay, so as you can see, calculated fields are a very handy tool to add formulas that are generally not there in your data set, right? You can add all these KPI style calculations into your pivot tables and then have them all handy. So when you add them all and put them in a table like this, so you have multiple dimensions to analyze a certain KPI from, because sometimes people don't want to go too deep into the data, they just want to look at KPIs. And when you present it to them in this fashion with all the pivot tables and whatnot in this way, then it becomes much easier for them to kind of get a first glance analysis of what's happening with the business or what's happening with the analysis. All right, so I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you can use this in your day-to-day work, right? So please do like this video if you found this helpful. Please do share it with your friends who are drowning in pivot tables week over week with analysis and presentations and dashboards and whatnot, right? So this should hopefully help them ease their workload as well, right? So please do that. Please comment on the video, let me know what you think of this, let me know what kind of videos I should be making over here, right? And please do subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. I will be coming up with more such videos in Excel and many other tools, all focusing on data analysis, data wrangling, tricks and techniques and things like that, right? So with that, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.